Well, good morning and welcome to Live Impact News right here on the 13 News Now app. It is 10:02 a.m. on June 2nd, 2026. We are one day into hurricane season and we welcome back super producer Sarah Calloway to the stream. We missed you yesterday, Sarah. How was your weekend?
It was good. I went camping.
Well,
Where'd you camp?
tell us more.
I went to Eagle Rock, Virginia.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very cool name.
Were you like tent camping?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I respect that.
We
I
talked.
I was raised a tent camper. Now I'm a little bit more of a glamper.
You're a glamp guy now.
A little bit more.
You stay in cabins with Wi-Fi and flat screens.
I got a trailer.
Whereas super producer, oh wow, you're really doing it big.
Yeah.
Whereas super producer Sarah Calloway living off the land.
I guess so.
She doesn't
Yes.
even. She doesn't even take matches. She just takes two sticks and a leather strap and just.
That's the
creates
guy.
her own fire.
The guy talking about the leather scrap, that is Craig Moeller, meteorologist extraordinaire. Now let's do this real quick before we jump into the forecast. Number one, Sarah and Craig, each give me your favorite camping thing.
Go ahead.
I love a good fire.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I would sign off on that immediately. My wife and I enjoy very much hiking, and we like to get out and do, especially in the mountains.
Okay.
Can't beat that. But
Pickleball.
yeah, good fire at night, the right, libation, perfect.
Pickleball or hiking, which do you like better?
Depends on the day.
Oh, okay. Craig Moeller, a renaissance man
I can tell you I've
of the
invested a lot
outdoors.
more in pickleball than hiking.
I bet.
But, yeah, good shoes and good trekking poles. All that.
We got a regional champion sitting here when it comes to the pickleball courts. Let's not forget.
His words, not mine.
Now-
Actually, I mean, yeah, whatever.
No,
You're just trying to get me to say Norfolk Senior Games.
I
Go
cannot
ahead.
wait. I've been trying for 2 weeks now. Now we
walk
we
off.
move to the weather report proper here, where you see the Virginia Beach oceanfront on your screen, and it is impossible not to notice
Yep.
the cresting whitecaps that have overtaken everything from the end of the pier on in. Craig, why are we seeing that? What are we seeing?
So, as a beach guy, Connor, when you see that, where what we call disorganized waves, where they're coming in and kind of collapsing on themselves, they're not barreling. They're not those beautiful waves that build and just kind of come into the coastline that people just love to catch and ride. This is a situation where we have a north-northeast wind. So it takes the wave as it's coming in and it kind of collapses it on itself. It's garbage to ride. I mean, this is not what a surfer looks for. As a matter of fact, I once tried when I was first trying to surf. I was like, oh, look at those waves. They look great. And I got out there and realized there was almost no push. The waves were falling on themselves. It just wasn't good at all. And on top of that, there's a greater threat of rip currents. So right now, this is nothing to play with. And we talk about this. Look at the beach. I mean, Sarah, can you take this full? Because I think it's important to note, not only are people not in the water, there's not a lot of folks out there at the beach, period. I see a couple people, looks like walking down closer to the pier there. You see those two dark figures. That's just a couple of beachcombers there walking along. But basically, it's windy and it's a little cool out there. Temperature's still in the 60s, so obviously you don't have people basking in the sun on a windy, cool beach day. But it's kind of a blessing that it's cooler today, because if we had warm and calmer conditions in terms of the wind, folks would be out there taking their chances maybe with the rip currents, and that is not a good idea.
And two things to your point. Number one, red flags up in Croatan, the north end, and the resort area of the Virginia Beach oceanfront. And to showcase the wind, no rush, but if some point during the forecast we could take the DQ cam as well, because it is alarming from that angle, the flags, and then you can see even sort of that ground eye view of what those white caps are like rushing in there at the oceanfront.
So I will caution you just a little bit, Connor, as we take a look, because the first few times I saw the DQ cams, you're thinking, oh my gosh, look at the flags.
Look at those flags.
Those are very light flags, and they are indicating, I mean, the winds are blowing 20 to 30 miles per hour, but we are not talking damaging winds. It's just a lot of times, and that's Old Glory flying there, so those are at least full flags, but sometimes they have almost like streamers that will look like, oh my gosh, hurricane force. It's not that bad. Now, that being said, look at the palms right there on that plant down just above the
bottom
banner.
left of your
Yeah,
screen.
I mean,
those
you've
palms,
got
yeah.
legitimate wind there. Of course, you have also folks just walking along. You've got a jogger there running into the northeast wind. I can tell you, if it was a terrible, terrible wind day, You wouldn't see anybody trying to run against that.
I'll tell you what else, though. That guy knows that resistance training is how you really build muscle. He's choosing to run against the wind because he's serious about his fitness.
We'll go with that. I can tell you, for anybody that's run in the Shamrock Sports Fest, if you've ever done the Shamrock Marathon or the half marathon, you now know the value of having a running pack when you're participating. We would literally go, even people I didn't know, we'd make friends real quick while you're out there running and take turns kind of training one behind the other so that you could tuck in and draft a little bit to break that wind.
So you created a verbal agreement amongst friends rather than just sort of drafting behind a stranger awkwardly. Yes.
Right.
Make sure you
Never
mention.
mind me. I'm extremely close. That breath you feel, I'm just drafting.
Right. Let's
You
pick up the
don't do
pace there,
that.
bud. I'm trying to get under 3 hours.
No,
here.
but if you do have a group of friends that are running, especially in some of these marathons, you get some of these exposed areas along the beach. Our course here, and I don't want to get off on a side tangent, but it is phenomenal. I mean, at one point, I think we had a record marathon number at Virginia Beach in the 80s, I think it was. It was a long time ago. But it's flat. It's fast. The one thing we have to watch out for with our marathoning along the beach and the ocean front is that it can be windy, and that's the case today. So not too bad. Winds sustained at the airport. If you want to go back to the Max 1, Sarah, I'll show you northeast winds 18 miles per hour. Now take a look at recent wind gusts. We've had gusts up to 30 miles per hour. Currituck, Manio, up to Wallops Island. In Virginia Beach, a gust to 32 at Oceana, and that's inland just a little bit. It's not far inland, but it's a little bit off the coast. We had a gust to 36 at Duck and a 35-mile-per-hour gust in Elizabeth City. These gusts actually a little bit higher. We knew there'd be gusts up to about 30 or so. So, again, we're seeing a few gusts even higher than that. Temperatures today at the beaches in the mid-60s. It's going to be windy through the mid-afternoon. It will relax after that. We're going to talk a lot more about the rip currents and the threats here. Do you want to do that now or after the break? Can we do that now? Okay, let's do that. So we have this rip current threat that is high, and I understand there was a basketball coach from UNC Wilmington, and you've got more information on her attempt to rescue her niece and nephew, which was successful, but she got into some trouble herself.
I got details I can run through for you real quick here, Craig. This is UNC Wilmington women's basketball coach Nicole Woods. She got caught in a rip current while trying to rescue her 8-year-old nephew during a family beach outing last week. Her nephew waded into the Atlantic Ocean off of Wrightsville Beach. A wave knocked him underwater. Woods jumped in to help him, and then the current dragged both of them out to sea. Now, Woods, heroic here, pushed her nephew above the surface so that he could breathe. She lost consciousness. A rescue team luckily was there to pull her and her nephew to shore. Paramedics, CPR on Woods, a defibrillator to revive her. She spent 24 hours on a ventilator before being able to breathe on her own. So one, unbelievable courage to go in and save her nephew's life possibly, and then two, if that rescue team, even with the rescue team, you see how serious it was. So this is something that we talk about a lot. We give these warnings, but it is a tangible danger that you have to be careful for out there when there's a high rip current warning.
You know, we heard her talking on Good Morning America in a live, well, I don't know if it was a live interview, but she was interviewed with them and she was talking with them, and she said, you know, she didn't even think about it. Just she saw the kids were in trouble. I thought there was a niece out there too, but at any rate, she went out, was able to get the kids to the uncle safely, but then she got caught, and people don't always think about it. It only takes a moment. Now, let me stress, if you do get in a rip current, you need to understand what's going on there. The water is being pulled out away from the shoreline, back out. Those are typically narrow channels of water that pull back out what feels like, oh, I'm getting sucked back out in the ocean. They don't always go that far out anyway, but the most important thing you can do is not panic. People get into trouble where they try to swim against the current. They get fatigued. If they're not strong swimmers, they can get pulled out a little bit into deeper water and can have problems staying up. That may have been the case with the coach here. I'm not sure how exactly she wound up underwater, but the bottom line is the key is do not panic. If you're able to float and kind of go with the flow, you can do that, ride out. Eventually the rip current will weaken. Or if you are an able swimmer and you can swim parallel to the beach, you will get out of that narrow channel that's drawing you out. All of a sudden there won't be a current and you can easily head back in. say it and we say it again. You try to swim against it, you panic out there, you get worn out, and that's where folks get into trouble. Connor, as you mentioned, it happens, every year it seems like we have situations where swimmers get into trouble.
Yeah, and we saw one this weekend. We actually have a soundbite from Nicole Woods following this event.
I had just gotten up to the shore not too long before I saw Noah get hit by a wave. I always tell him not to turn his back to the waves, and just one particular time, it was almost like a perfect storm. I saw it hit him and, just kind of knock him off his balance, and then I saw the tide taking him out. I rushed out just because I didn't want him to get pulled out any further. I just remember thinking, like, nothing can happen to my nephew. He's got to save Noah. And I remember going under to, like, push him towards the gentleman that was coming. And that's the last thing I remember.
Just unbelievable stuff from Coach Woods, a heroic move, and now the opportunity to kind of go forward and warn people about this and make sure that everyone else can take proper precautions. And that with having kids out on the beach, right, and having to constantly monitor them in the water, I think that's a big part of this as well.
It only takes a second. Mm-hmm. And, it's funny, we run these stories having worked here since 1997. I can't even tell you how many stories that we've covered where somebody loses a child out at the ocean front. Most of the time they find them, but they can wander off so quickly. It creates panic. Unfortunately, we have had stories where there have been issues where the kids were lost, and there have been some other situations along the East Coast where there have been, fatalities. And you obviously need to keep a super close eye. What looks like a fun day at the beach can turn tragic if you're not careful. Fortunately, we have excellent lifeguards in Virginia Beach. They're there to let you know, hey, rip currents are up, stay out of the water, or only go in over here. Listen to them, and again, stay safe.
And if you're at the north end, you're not going to see too many of those lifeguards. So you got to make sure that you're always watching out, being careful. We are going to take a quick commercial break here, Craig. When we get back, we'll kind of get more into the forecast for this week, see what we've got coming up weather-wise. But we appreciate that breakdown of the rip currents. Remember, red flags out, Croatan, North End, and the resort area of the oceanfront. We'll be right back with more Live Impact News. Welcome back to Live Impact News. You know, while we were in break, the topic we were talking about before kind of got us discussing some of our past beach vacations and being safe, being careful. We heard from Craig Moeller that he used to go to the Jersey Shore. Now, Sarah Calloway, our producer, was hoping you could tell us more tales of maybe your activities at the Jersey Shore, but I think we should focus on the forecast.
Jim Dan Laundry, me and what's her name? Snooky? Yeah. Anyway.
Nailed it.
It's been a while.
Up on the pop culture,
Come on.
though. Up
Yeah.
on the pop culture.
All right.
We do have a forecast we have to get to. We'll have to save Jersey Shore tales with Craig for later. What do we got
Ollie
here,
D,
Craig?
here we go. All right, let's take a look at the marine forecast. We have small craft advisories. We just showed you the high threat of rip currents. It's windy out there. Winds could gust 30 knots or so for the bay and the ocean. You don't want to go out in a small craft today. No bueno for paddleboard or kayaking. It's just a mess out there. So enjoy the beach, from the sand. And again, you don't want to go in with that high threat of rip currents right now. As we look across the region, it's quiet. The clouds clearing out. It is sunny. It is beautiful. That UV index, though, very high. We're talking 15 minutes. The sunburn begins. Gotta take care of your skin. That frontal boundary down to the southeast, we have the northeast flow, and temperatures today will be held in check. Highs upper 60s near the coast. I think actually mid 60s at the beaches, but upper 60s for areas within a mile or so of the coast. And then you go farther inland, you'll find some areas into the low and even mid 70s. Now, overnight tonight, clear skies. Tomorrow, sunshine, warmer. Highs upper 70s near the coast. We'll see temperatures into the lower 80s inland. Our normal high is 81. As we get to Thursday, that's when we get back up into the lower 80s. So we start off Thursday morning, 50s to near 60. And here comes the heat through the afternoon on Thursday. We will enjoy that. Now, you want to talk heat. Let's talk extended forecast here. The 7-day forecast, making it a little warmer each day. So while we're at 69 today, low 70s inland. Tomorrow, upper 70s, low 80s inland. We'll be in the lower 80s on Thursday, maybe mid 80s for some spots away from the water. The heat really sets up. Friday near 90, low to mid 90s on Saturday, and near 90 on Sunday. I think we're dry through the weekend. Maybe a shower late Sunday or Sunday night into Monday. A few isolated showers. Until then, we're pretty dry. It's going to be a nice stretch of weather. We could actually use some rain. We are 4.43 inches below average. So still technically very dry across the region.
Even after all that, we are still so far below what we need. And now look at this. No rain for the next 6 days.
I will make one more point.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to talk tropics right after the break. And we'll also have a quick mention on the El Nino or Super El Nino outlook, what that means for the Atlantic hurricane season. While you'd say, hey, maybe some less activity in the Atlantic basin is a good thing, parts of the southeast U.S. really need moisture, and tropical moisture helps. So we'll break all of that down and have more on what's going on in the Pacific as well.
All right, 90 degrees this weekend. No rain, but could be a good beach weekend coming up here in Hampton Roads, Northeast North Carolina. Coming up here on Live Impact News, you heard them. We're talking tropics when we get back. Day 2 of hurricane season coming up next. right, we're back here on Live Impact News, and what a treat. Craig Moeller still here. Extended Craig this morning on Live Impact. We didn't have him yesterday because we had so much stuff right off the top, and so we insisted that we have him hang around for double the time today. Craig, what's going on?
I love this because what this means is that we don't have any major horrific news breaking across the area.
Well, it's also good for you because you get paid by the word, no?
Yeah.
Hence the extended.
That would be a thing. They'd never have me out of here. They'd be like, Moeller, enough already. We're done with you. All right. Here's the deal. I am not getting paid by the word, but I am going to use my words to talk to you about the tropics and something we touched on a little earlier. We don't have that audio from the WMO, do we? We had. Yeah, go ahead and pull that, Sarah, while I talk a little bit about the outlook here. All right, so the World Meteorological Organization was talking about, they're now fully bought into this idea that we're having a very strong El Nino, and I think they've been following this and believing this for a while. But just recently, they actually put out, some heads up to different areas that are going to get hit differently by this strong, if not a super El Nino. You're looking at sea surface temperature anomalies. That's what SST anomaly is on the banner for. This is kind of the difference. Well, didn't we just zoom way out? But what I wanted to show you is, first of all, let's take a look at our coastal waters here in Virginia. Look at that. I mean, we have temperatures a little cool just off the outer banks, but once you go south, you see the temperatures are warmer than normal. It's also warmer than normal down to the Gulf and back across the Caribbean. Pretty close to average, a little warmer than normal back in the western part of the Caribbean. Across the main development region, it's not terribly bad. Temperatures pretty close to average there. But in the eastern Pacific, these areas here, this is what we're talking about with the potential for the additional warming. This sets up what we call an El Nino. And remember, when we talk about this, the El Nino, let me point to what I'm talking about right here off the coast of Peru. These waters are really starting to warm as this body of water continues to warm here right along the eastern equatorial Pacific. When it gets above normal, really above normal, you don't get as much upwelling going on. There's not as much nutrients in the water. The fish harvest off the coast of Peru goes down a little bit. This is how they started tracking this decades, really centuries before that we had all the technology and ways that we can track it. The Peruvian fishermen knew that when it warmed up, those waters warmed up, they didn't get as good of a fish harvest. Their catches were kind of lame. They said, okay, this is an El Nino because it was occurring. They would discover it around the coming of Christmas or the Christ child, El Nino, the baby. So that's where it got its name. Well, what we've since found out in the past several decades with studies and studies and even longer than that, taking a look at climate records during these El Nino events, there are weather patterns that occur around the world. So this abnormal warming in this part of the ocean, and it is, I say abnormal, I'm just saying when it's above the average sea surface temperatures, it is a natural cycle. It's an oscillation that occurs. When we get into this warm phase, that creates some issues. So what are those issues? Well, you can see we are trending right now into El Nino. Right now we're going from La Nada, which is neutral, into El Nino. Eventually we're going to reach that super El Nino as we go later in the summer and into the fall. Potentially, if not a super El Nino, a strong El Nino, and that's going to create some issues. Do you have the world? This is a spokesperson with the World Meteorological Organization talking about some of the impacts across the globe and what it could mean for our hurricane season.
In some regions, it is likely we will see heavy rainfall and floods. In others, drought conditions. In others, increased or reduced extreme heat or tropical cyclone activity. We can also expect an increased risk of extreme heat with higher temperatures and shifting precipitation patterns, adding further stress on human health, ecosystems, agriculture, and energy systems.
Hear her talk about that, and one of the things I think is really key, she talks about stress on some of these ecosystems and on human actions. For some areas, the El Nino can bring some benefit. And as we look at this map, let's take this full, Sarah. You can see for us here on the Atlantic Basin, it could mean, and it likely will mean, less tropical activity. So this is something that we will continue to watch as we go through the tropical season. We could see less hurricanes develop, less tropical cyclones here. Again, in the Eastern Pacific, more hurricanes, and that's what the concern is going to be. Right now, off our coast, just some stray showers left over from a front. Down in the Gulf of Mexico, a broad area of low pressure spinning here. Nothing tropical right now. As we look across the Caribbean, it is clear for most of the Caribbean, the western part of the Caribbean, there is a little bit of convection. We'll keep an eye to this stuff coming off of this Central American area down around Belize. As we look out across the basin, most of the basin's actually in really good shape. So this area in here, not seeing any development at all. No tropical activity expected within the next 7 days for us here in the Atlantic Basin. What about the Pacific? This is what I really wanted to key on before I jump off. Right now, just south of San Salvador and near Nicaragua, the coast here, we've got an area developing in here that we'll want to watch over the coming days. There is that. And we've got this area here that may be developing as well. We're seeing more convection. This is looking more and more impressive all the time. There is a 90% chance of development within the next 7 days here. We have our first tropical system likely there in the Central Pacific. And then you can see that other area that's near San Salvador, that has a 40% chance of development. That could bring some rain, some heavy rain to the southern parts of Mexico, so we'll watch that. The one thing I will mention before I jump off here, even though this system is out here not too far, you go, okay, well, I see Hawaii right there. You take a look, that's 1,800 miles, 1,900 miles from Hawaii. It is forecast to kind of meander out there, maybe turn to the north and weaken. So Hawaii not directly impacted by that as it looks right now, but it's something we will, of course, keep an eye to.
All right, Craig Moeller with a lot of patience and extra time for us here today. A lot of stuff going on in the world of weather as well. The World Meteorology Organization, is that something that you're a part of? Are all meteorologists a part of that?
So the WMO, that is the organization that, it's not like the NCAA where you just kind of join and be a member of that.
It's like the WHO, but for weather.
The WMO,
Yes.
It's an organization of science experts that do things like, well, they name our hurricanes. Like they come up with a list of hurricane names and they do different studies across the globe. So it is a world organization and they do a lot of good work.
Very nice. Well, Craig Moeller, you do a lot of good work. We appreciate you very much. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow on Live Impact News.
All right.
All right, as for us here today on Live Impact News, we're about to go to break. Let's do a very brief update on what may be coming after the break. We know that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, is in the midst of a congressional hearing right now while he talks about the 2027 budget for the State Department. We also know that just recently, in the last 2-3 minutes, it has come across our live feed that there will be a press conference in Shelby, North Carolina, for the police officer who was caught in that viral doorbell camera video punching a woman during an arrest and who has now been charged with assault. That press conference setting up right now. So we've got a lot still to come here on Live Impact News. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. Now, that press conference we spoke about in Shelby, North Carolina has still not yet begun. So what we're going to do is we are going to go live out to the congressional hearing with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Keep in mind, this is the first time Marco Rubio has appeared before Congress since the war in Iran began on February 28th. So there will be lots of questions about the budget, but we expect there to be lots of questions about the war in Iran as well. Let's go live out to Washington, D.C. right now.
Remains on the sanctions. What has changed is these time-limited extensions to sort of try to alleviate the global, the problem we're facing too is there's a contagion potential, and that is that at some point we can do strategic reserves, we can do some of the other things that we've done to sort of alleviate global supply, but at some point you have to ensure, and this is not so much for us. At the end of the day, our economy is not in need of it, but there are other economies around the world that have benefited from this. So these are time-limited extensions that ultimately at some point will expire.
We've certainly benefited China and Russia's economy.
Well, China doesn't. I mean, China refines oil. They import a lot, but they refine oil, and
but they also benefit from Russian oil. But my question for you is, can you commit not to extend the general license again when it expires on June 17th?
Well, that ultimately is a decision that's made by Treasury, but I will tell you it depends on the circumstances at the time. We would like to end it as soon as we possibly can because the underlying policy of this country has been to sanction their oil. These were time-limited waivers for the purpose of opening up more global supply.
I understand that, but if we continue to extend them, they're not time-limited. I want to get a final question in on Food for Peace because, as you know, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz has deepened the humanitarian needs in food insecure countries such as Sudan, South Sudan. And yet, in your opening statement, you said that our aid targets those who are most in need. But I think it's very concerning that the country selection process for Food for Peace, which I understand is led by the Department of State, includes only 2 priority countries from World Food Program hunger hotspots. That's Haiti and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So the question I have is, why are we adding countries that aren't facing acute food insecurity, like El Salvador, Guatemala, and Rwanda? Why are we not helping countries who are facing acute, famine in some cases? Sudan, Gaza, Afghanistan, Nigeria, Syria, Somalia. These are all countries that have humanitarian crises, and yet we're helping countries that don't have acute food insecurity.
So a couple points. First of all, on Gaza, we have spent hundreds of millions of dollars, including after the ceasefire, and providing through the World Food Program and other entities, and we continue to do so. I think if we're not the world's largest donor, I'd be surprised because it's a massive amount of money that we've provided through those mechanisms of various means. On the point of Sudan in particular, the complication in Sudan, which I wish were different, and we're very involved in this. I mean, I had a meeting on Sudan yesterday. The problem in Sudan has largely not been our unwillingness to provide funds. We are willing to step forward, and we have the flexibility through what we've been able to do with foreign aid to surge up that. It's been distribution. It's been the ability to get that. So as an example, in these conversations we're having between the warring sides, one of the things we're trying to identify is 4 safe spots where people can go receive humanitarian care, assistance, where we can actually have the outside groups, the NGOs, the international organizations that we contract with, have the ability to go in and actually deliver the food without having their trucks hijacked or blown up or their workers killed. That's been the fundamental challenge in Sudan, is distribution. The distribution is being threatened because we don't have conditions on the ground that allow for it. And so to allocate money towards something that we can't distribute is unwise until we have that in place. That's deeply tied to the ability to have a peace deal, which I can tell you has been very frustrating. On the one hand, with Sudan, we had a donor conference in Berlin.
I don't want to interrupt you, Mr. Secretary, but I'm out of time, and it doesn't explain why we are providing food for countries that are not insecure. I appreciate the challenges in Sudan. We have those challenges in many places, but because we have dismantled the distribution network when we eliminated USAID, we've exacerbated those challenges in countries around the world, and we are not providing the help based on humanitarian needs, and that's my concern. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Ricketts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Secretary of State, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Good to see you. Communist China is trying to win the AI race, and they will use it, for example, to dominate our military if they're able to do that, and so many other ways. A world where Communist China is dominant in AI is very bad for the United States and for the entire world. That's why it's critical that us and our allies cannot lose this race. Semiconductor supply chains, particularly semiconductor manufacturing equipment, SMEs, are critical to winning this competition. It's one area that Beijing is spending billions and billions of dollars to be able to produce chips in China, and they've failed to be able to produce those high-end chips so far. President Trump understands this better than anyone because the Trump administration was the first to utilize export controls on SMEs to slow down Communist China's advanced chip-making industry. Since that time, key allies and partners have also imposed controls on SMEs to China. However, their controls have not been as restrictive as U.S. controls, and this has allowed certain foreign countries to backfill the Chinese market with critical dual-use tools. Secretary Rubio, do you agree that export controls on SMEs are critical to maintaining our technological advantage over Communist China?
It is. It's actually where it's most critical is in the high end. The areas, that are not legacy, that are broader and that allow for that. I think on the broader point of AI, we share your view. One of the initiatives that I think Jacob Helberg's done a great job with at the State Department is Pax Silica, in which we signed up all these countries around the world. I think we're up to 13 or 14, and including ourselves and others who hope to join as well, in which we can create this global consortium for all of the elements of the AI supply needs. It's not just the innovation, it's obviously access to the minerals and the critical elements necessary in order to produce these chips and all the things that it will take to lead the world in AI. I think it is safe to say the United States right now is a global leader on AI. I think it is also wise to say that that lead is not irreversible. It has to be sustained, and there will be a real challenge in sustaining it. And we're going to have to stay focused on it. The good news is I do think we have a system of global alliances that view it the way we do. And we want to lead on it because it's not just about leading the technology in AI. It's about also leading in the standards that will govern how AI is used. I don't want to monopolize this conversation on this point, but it's one that I think the Senate should think about because I know we're starting to think about it. AI will have very positive impacts on our economy and societies. It will also have some detriments. There will be white-collar jobs in this country that will be impacted. And I think we have to start thinking not simply about the impact that AI will have on those jobs, but the societal pressures that will create, not just in the United States, but in economies all over the world. Much like industrialization and automation did, it will make the worker more efficient and more valuable, but it will eliminate some jobs, and those jobs will have to be replaced with new jobs or new skills. That's not just an economic issue. That is a political issue. That, over time, could destabilize societies all over the world. So we have to start thinking about AI in those terms as well.
You mentioned our allies. Shouldn't they have to follow the same sort of standards U.S. companies do when we're limiting the semi-manufacturing equipment that's going to Communist China?
And that's our hope, is that we can create people that we can create a coalition of nations that understand the danger in this. And they're running through the same, some are better than others, but they're running through the same problems that we run into. And that is companies ultimately want to sell to the markets, and China's a large market. But I agree, and that's one of the goals behind Pax Silica, is to create unanimity or consensus behind that thinking.
Well, Mr. Secretary, that's why I recently introduced the Match Act with Senators Kim, Risch, and Schumer to level the playing field. This bill would provide the State Department with the leverage in ongoing negotiations with our allies to align those controls. And if agreement cannot be reached, it would ensure that foreign companies cannot sell the very choke point technologies that we have restricted. So I hope you'll support that as we move forward on it. One other thing I just want to hit before my time runs out here is that I was the co-sponsor of a bill to create the U.S. Foundation for National Security and Counterterrorism. This is a foundation that would be a public-private partnership. It would help counter traffickers and insurgents operating in ungoverned spaces around the developing world, such as Africa. The State Department, however, has not, for over a year and a half now, launched this foundation, and I'd encourage you to work expeditiously to implement it. I think this is something that, as we're talking about, especially the continent of Africa, can be very helpful to making sure that we're not only helping conserve the environment and helping animals, it's bad for terrorists. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And look at that, I kept it in my time.
Good job.
Can you do as well, Senator Murphy?
I'll do my best. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being with us today. Despite the differences that existed between Republicans and Democrats prior to this administration on how to approach Iran's nuclear program, the theory was basically the same, that we were going to impose significant harm on the Iranian economy in order to force them to the table to negotiate. What is happening now is fundamentally different. This war and the administration's decision to blockade has now held the entire world economy and the U.S. economy hostage to the ability to negotiate an agreement with Iran. This is why the entire country is seized by the question of when there will be an agreement, because apparently until there is an agreement, the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. There is a cost to the Iranian economy, but now there is a devastating cost to the U.S. economy. It has been indecipherable, the information coming from the administration, especially in the past several weeks, as we get signals that a deal is imminent. The president said yesterday he's bored by the negotiations. He doesn't care whether we get a deal. I think it's really important for us to understand what your bottom lines are, what you're asking for in this negotiation, what commitments you need Iran to make in order for you to release the blockade, and we hope for them to release the blockade as well. So give us a little insight into what your bottom lines are, what is going to get the strait reopened, because this is kind of the only question that matters for American consumers right now. And every day we get wildly different signals from the president as to whether he even is engaged in this question as to whether the strait is going to reopen.
Yeah, I think your question gets right to the heart of the matter. So I think it's a good question. Let me first bifurcate two things. The only reason there's a blockade, the only reason why there's a U.S. blockade is because Iran has closed they're firing on commercial ships, and they've mined large segments of Hormuz, international waters. And so the blockade is only against Iranian ships. And it's very simple. The notion is if no one's ships are going to get out, then Iran's ships aren't going to get out either. We can't live in a world in which they get to close the straits and tell everybody, pay us a toll or we'll blow you up, but their ships get to go out unfettered. So that's the reason why there's a blockade. There wouldn't have been a blockade if Iran had agreed to do what they said they would do when the ceasefire kicked in, which is they were going to open the straits. So let me just focus on the straits for a moment. Number one, what they're doing is unlawful and illegal. There isn't a country on earth, other than Iran, and maybe Oman that flirted with it, who's in favor of what Iran is doing in the straits. The Chinese are against it. The Russians are against it. Everyone is against it. The whole world is against it. So condition number one is they have to reopen the straits. And reopening the straits means the following. Ships can sail through international waters the way they can do through other choke points around the world without being fired upon, without paying a toll. That's condition number one.
But the strait is closed because of our decision to invade Iran. This is a consequence of our military action. So I guess I'm not interested in litigating that question. We all know why the strait is closed, because you took military action against Iran, and we knew ahead of time that that would be their likely response. The question is, how are we going to get it reopened? Are you going to drive a bargain that is so tough and so hard that the strait remains closed? So how are we going to get it open?
The first thing, that is a predicate to anything else happening. The straits have to be reopened. So the way to think about it is this. If Iran wants to be able to move its oil again through the strait, they will have to reopen the straits. If they refuse to do so, then we have other options available to us, but we would prefer to negotiate the opening of this, which means
tell us about the negotiations. What do you need from them in order to get the strait reopened? We need the strait reopened tomorrow.
Well, what needs to happen is very simple. They need to announce that they will no longer fire on commercial ships that are going through or threaten to fire on ships, because in many cases, ships just won't move. They won't go, not because they got fired on, but because of the risk of being fired upon. And so they have to announce very clearly, the straits are now open. We're not charging a toll. We will help remove the mines that they put in there, and they will not fire on ships.
But the president says they also need to make commitments on their nuclear program. That's what I'm asking.
I see what you're saying.
What commitments do they need to make in order for the strait to be reopened?
Well, the second thing they have to agree to as part of this is, so in addition to the straits, that's the predicate that opens the door to phase two. Phase two is they have to commit to very specific negotiations on the disposition of the highly enriched uranium that still is buried deep in a mountain somewhere. They have to agree on negotiating severe and long-term limitations and or cancellation of enrichment activity in their country.
In the second.
Okay, so discussing those restrictions on potential Iranian nuclear activity, that's been a major sticking point in this war and in trying to find a peaceful resolution to this war. Now, we're going to take a break here on Live Impact News. When we get back, the press conference in Shelby, North Carolina, looks like it's just getting started. We'll head to that upon our return. Welcome back to Live Impact News here. Now, we were talking about heading out to Shelby, North Carolina for that press conference regarding the video and then ultimately charges for assault that were brought against a North Carolina police officer who was seen repeatedly punching a woman during an arrest. Now, that feed just went out, but it has just come back. There was an individual speaking at the front of the room. We thought that was the beginning of the press conference, though he may have just been giving instruction to the gathered press. We're hoping this will start very shortly here. I think what we'll do is I'm going to give more detail and background on this situation in hopes that the press conference starts while I'm doing that. If it doesn't, we have plenty more to cover we can get to, but we're just going to see if we can time this out well. So let's go through this once again. The details that I already spoke about, that foundational story here that we first learned of not too long ago. A now former North Carolina police officer seen in a doorbell camera video repeatedly punching a woman during an arrest. That officer has been charged with assault. That officer would be Carson Hyder, 22 years old. He turned himself in on Monday, according to the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, charged with 1 count of assault inflicting serious injury in connection with the incident that happened on Friday. He was processed and released on a $10,000 bond. It is unclear what his representation is legally at this time. The North Carolina Bureau said it initiated an investigation that examined an allegation of excessive use of force at the request of the Shelby police chief. Hyder was fired on Saturday after the Shelby Police Department completed an administrative investigation into the incident, according to the Shelby police chief. Quote from the Shelby police chief: "While this incident does not reflect the values of the Shelby Police Department, it does reinforce the importance of holding ourselves to the highest standards of conduct." He called the former officer's actions disturbing and inappropriate. What else do we know? We know that officers were conducting a criminal investigation in Shelby on Friday when they encountered, quote, a suspicious female. The doorbell video appears to show an officer repeatedly punching a woman identified as 34-year-old Sherry Moore during an arrest before another officer appears to intervene. It's unclear what happened before the video. The officer, Hyder, did not respond to ABC News' request for comment. Sherry Moore's family, who had called for the officer to be charged, which subsequently has happened, told ABC News on Monday that they, quote, feel great about the charging decision. Her uncle said she suffered a broken nose in the incident, but the full extent of her injuries is not clear at this time. A quote from Sherry Moore's uncle, we just want the right thing done, and I think the first right thing is that he be charged. Once he's charged, then we can move forward. Now, according to this report from ABC News, a quote for more information from her uncle, Moore has mental health issues and is homeless. She was initially charged with misdemeanor breaking or entering, resisting arrest, and assault on a government official. Her family has said the charges were dropped, though, according to the district court clerk and court records obtained by ABC News, Moore still has one pending charge of a misdemeanor of breaking or entering. She currently has a court hearing scheduled for Friday. ABC News has reached out to the district attorney about that pending charge. Now, Moore was previously charged with resisting a public officer in August of 2025 in a separate incident that also involved former officer Hyder. Court documents gave that information to ABC News. She pleaded guilty the following month and was sentenced to time served according to the findings. So that is where things stand with this situation. We'll pull this up for you because, as you can see, this press conference still has not gotten underway in full. We continue to wait, but that is not abnormal for these types of things. There are a lot of moving parts to bring together for a press conference like this. You can see just from the amount of microphones with different tags there how much media is at this event, as that viral video and that viral video going public has really caught the attention of the nation after seeing the alleged assault on that woman during that arrest. Now, we continue to wait for that press conference to get started. What we'll do here, we'll take another quick break. When we come back, we'll move forward with other coverage. And frankly, it appears as though Tim Kaine has begun speaking at the State Department. We'll go live out to Marco Rubio's congressional hearing right now, where Virginia Senator Kaine is speaking.
Ask for American investment into your countries when you have a history of expropriating, of takings, and in some cases, it's a local official that's trying to extort an American business and say, hey, I'm the sheriff or I'm the local police officer. If you don't pay us, your workers won't show up to work tomorrow. We have problems like that as well around the world that involve the local level. And it's become a leading part of our diplomacy. And it's happening at the embassy level, which is where I think it really needs to be led.
That's where your field generals are, and I applaud the sea change, and you know you've got support on a bipartisan basis here in the Congress to move this forward. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator Hagerty. Senator Kaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to Senator Hagerty for mentioning our work together in Philippines and Mexico. Mr. Secretary, you won't be surprised that I'm going to ask you about the Western Hemisphere. You and I traded the gavel and the ranking on the Western Hemisphere Subcommittee when you were on this committee, and that was good, productive work. I want to ask you about Operation Southern Spear, the operation to strike boats in the Pacific and the Caribbean that dozens of operations have now killed more than 200 people. Have you been involved as Secretary of State or National Security Advisor in discussion about the targeting criteria that are used to decide which boats we should strike?
No, but not because I've avoided it, but because those are largely legal decisions, right? So
but if you haven't been involved in the discussion, as the National Security Advisor, are you aware of what the targeting criteria are?
Yeah, I mean, they go through, so every strike has a legal officer on the deck that has to make a determination about whether the call is legal or not. And this is done by the Department of War, the way it's been done in other theaters around the world.
Here's what I want to ask you about. So you're generally aware of the targeting criteria. I am not allowed. I know what the targeting criteria are because of briefings I've had in this committee and the Armed Services Committee. It's all been in classified. And I'm not allowed to discuss the targeting criteria because they've only been shared and classified. But I don't think I'm prohibited from describing things that aren't targeting criteria. So I'll give you an obvious example. Everyone on the boat is right-handed. That's not a targeting criteria. It would be ridiculous.
Everyone on the boat is what?
Everybody on the boat is right-handed. That's not a targeting criteria. It's obviously not a targeting criteria. It would be improper for it to be a targeting criteria. Here's one that's not so obvious and that surprised me. There's evidence of narcotics on the boat. That is not a targeting criteria. I have been briefed on Southern Spear since the first operation on September 2 and most recently within the last couple of weeks, and I've asked again and again, Have the targeting criteria changed? No, they have not. What are their criteria? Here's what they are. I can't describe it here. But the presence of narcotics on the boat has never been a targeting criteria. Would you have any ability to explain? And the administration could have picked that as a targeting criteria. They chose items that were targets, that authorized the use of the U.S. military to sink boats and kill people, but they have not used the presence of narcotics on the boat as one of the targeting criteria. And I would suggest to my colleagues, if you go look at the individual files of all the strikes, and I've looked at the first 46, they are consistent with what I've just said about something that's not on the list of targeting criteria. Why would the administration not include the presence of narcotics on the boat as a targeting criteria
Well, look,
in Operation Southern Spear?
As you just outlined, I can't discuss the specifics of the targeting criteria, but I can tell you the one thing that is obvious is that the targeting criteria is not single source. In essence, there are multiple checks.
There are 3 elements to the targeting criteria.
Right, and all of it informed and infused by intelligence collection. In essence, they have to have true links. I can tell you they do walk away from strikes. There are multiple times that I've been aware. I'm not aware of every strike because it's not reported on a regular basis, it's delegated.
Yeah.
But there have been strikes that they've walked away from because it doesn't meet the criteria or because there's doubts.
I'm not saying that the strikes that I've reviewed don't meet the targeting criteria, but I'm saying how odd it is, especially since the administration always announced this is against narco-traffickers, we've attacked narco-traffickers, how odd it is that the presence of narcotics on a boat is not one of the targeting criteria. And I would encourage my colleagues, get the same briefing I've gotten, take a look at the strike files, you'll be as surprised as I am. Here's the second question. Again, in your dual role, Secretary of State, National Security Advisor. The administration's Operation Southern Spear, we could agree with it or not, but the administration presented a legal opinion from the DOJ that we could review. Absolute resolve, the effort against Maduro. The administration presented a legal rationale that we could review. Now, we could review both in classified. They've not been made public. We're 92 days into a war against Iran, and the administration will not let Congress look at the OLC legal opinion justifying the war. Intel committee members, SFRC members, Armed Services Committee members, rank and file members, the administration will not make it available to us. Now, you can imagine, A, we're the Oversight Committee, B, you're here asking for a budget, and in the Armed Services Committee, they're asking for $1.5 trillion, an increase of 40% over last year's budget, but won't let us see the legal opinion. And Mr. Secretary, you know what kind of thinking we do. If you've showed us the legal rationale for 2 wars and you won't show us the legal rationale for the third, is there something in the rationale they don't want us to see? Is there a dissenting opinion that says it's not legal? Are there conditions like you can't strike civilian infrastructure like schools and bridges? Are there factual assertions like the war will be over in 2 days or Iran will never close the Straits of Hormuz? By not sharing the legal opinion with the Article I Oversight Branch, you give us the opinion that there's something in there you don't want us to see. Could you use your influence as the President's Chief National Security Advisor, Secretary of State, NSA, to get the administration to share the Iran war legal opinion with Congress?
Well, look, first of all, obviously the Department of State does not develop the legal opinion. That's the Office of Legal Counsel.
You're the Chief National
So I think what you're asking is why haven't the Office of Legal Counsel provided it? They don't work for the National Security
I'm
Council.
actually
They don't work for
asking,
me.
will you use your influence as
Well, I will
President's
certainly
Chief
inquire as to
National
why.
Security
Here's what I'll do.
Advisor?
I can certainly inquire as to why it has not been available. I don't think there's a reason why. I am not aware that. In fact, my understanding is they have provided documentation to the committee and
Not the opinion.
as part of the war.
Not the opinion.
Well, that's different.
And you wouldn't accept that.
All right, well, let me
if you were
take that
sitting
back
on
and
this
ask
side
the
of
Office of
dais.
Legal Counsel. But it's certainly, they provided the legal rationale for the strike. You're asking for the actual written opinion the way it was
Which
in
they
the other.
provided us
All
in
right, I
Southern
understand.
Spear and Absolute Resolve.
I'll
Thanks,
take
Mr.
that
Chair.
back.
Thank you. Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Secretary Rubio, for being.
You look like rickets. I apologize. This threw me off a second.
Well, look, bald is beautiful, and we
new caucus.
can't help that. But thanks for all of your efforts. You are a very effective spokesperson for not only President Trump and the administration, but for the United States, and I'm grateful for that. Was wondering at the outset if you could talk to us a little bit about the fractured Iranian regime and how that might be making negotiations more difficult. One of the things I've wondered, for example, are whether the diplomatic Iranian channels are sort of crosswise, at odds with, or working hand in glove with the IRGC, which is itself causing a lot of these ceasefire violations, or is it all sort of coordinated chaos to try to undermine and tip the scales in favor of Iran in the negotiations?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me try to give this answer to you in a way that's not boring or wonky, because it's been a shift. Obviously, the original Supreme Leader, the one that was there, is no longer with us. His son takes over. Nobody hears from him for a month. By all reports, open source reporting, I think you've all seen it, he was severely injured in the same strike, and so forth.
Are you confident he's still alive, by the way?
Yeah, I think there's indications that, in fact, we've not heard from him publicly. We haven't seen him publicly, and I would imagine, given what's happened to multiple leaders in that system, being very public is probably not something that's recommended for them internally. But that said, I think there are indications out there that he is increasingly engaging at some level, although all of his communications have been in writing and through intermediaries. So the way to think about it is the following. You have the Supreme Leader, and understand that at the end of the day, the Supreme Leader in their system there really is no analogy to it in our system or anybody else's system. It is a theological office. It was the head of the Islamic Republic in the sense of the ultimate decision maker. And every major decision has to be run by them. They are advised by a council. It's not clear if it's 6 people or 8 people, but there is a council made up of both IRGC and other elements of the regime that surround that Supreme Leader. And ultimately, that council has to sign off on anything. And then there are the people you see on TV, like Arachi, who's out there every single day, and Ghalibaf, who's the Speaker of the Majlis, who's been playing a pretty prominent role. And they are the ones that they have sent to negotiations and so forth. It is our view of the system, as we understand it, and as it's been expressed to us both by the intermediaries and by Iran directly, that what Arachi and Ghalibaf bring or take from us, they then have to run back to this council and ultimately get guidance from them. And that process oftentimes takes 3 to 5 days to get a response. Now, some of it is logistical. They're operating probably using couriers and things of this nature. Part of it is internal fissures on exactly what they should agree to or not agree to. I think the second point that needs to be driven in this regard is that there is evidence that there are communications issues within the regime as well. So, for example, it's pretty clear that at the outset of hostilities in the conflict, they had delegated decision-making to field commanders. And so oftentimes field commanders had delegated authority to act on let's say, a pre-operational planning that already put in place. And so unlike our system, where perhaps you know that the President or the Secretary of War is directly making orders and decisions, or the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, in their system, a lot of decision-making at the tactical level, like which ships to hit and so forth, are being made at the commander level. So that's
why from the outset it can look like fire-ready aim, but it's part of the design of the system, perhaps?
Well, I think it was a design of the system in the sense of regime survival and the ability to operate in case there was decapitation strikes or people were removed. But let's go back.
All right, an opportunity there to hear from Senator Kaine, amongst others, as that congressional hearing continues. Secretary of State Marco Rubio before the Senate right now. He'll appear before the House as well. But we, however, need to take a break at this time. We will be right back. We have an interview coming up in just a few minutes. Well, welcome back to Live Impact News, where we are joined by Dr. Stephanie Herodopoulos, the Director of National Health Communications for the Office of the Surgeon General. Dr. Herodopoulos, I'm Connor. We really appreciate you taking a little time with us this morning, and we are joined here today because of a new Surgeons General advisory released on Wednesday, May 20th, that really focused on screen time and the potentially harmful effects of screen time, especially for children. I'm wondering, what stood out to you most about this advisory? What's the most important thing that you guys want to highlight here?
Thank you, Connor. Well, this is so much. Secretary Kennedy with the Make America Healthy Again movement wants to protect our children. And this we found was causing so many problems. Let me describe it. Probably what's most is when we looked at functional MRIs of the very young that are being exposed to screens at young, it decreases cortical thickness of the brain. So it actually affects the brain's development. We know brains don't fully finish developing until age 25. So when you're exposing them to a young age, what does that mean? Neurocognitive delays, language delays, memory and attention, behavioral issues, as well as hyperactivity. So that, I think, is what stood out the most to me. But there's also physical problems in addition to that. Like, we have 1 in 5 children, unfortunately, have obesity in the United States. That means it affects their cardiometabolic health, and they're not sleeping as much, they're not exercising, they're sedentary. It also can affect their eyesight. Now we have myopia, which means that they are nearsighted. They can't see far. Estimated by 2050 that 40% of kids will have this because of closed screens and not getting outside, getting sunlight in their eyes. Those are all issues. And of course, like the last Surgeon General had talked about, social media causing mental health issues like depression, anxiety, that is crowding out normal activities. We couldn't wait any longer. We needed to let the American people know what we found, and it's all nicely compiled in one place on surgeongeneral.gov. You can find the advisory and the toolkit, like the solutions. What can we do as a society to get all hands on deck to fix this trajectory?
And we've talked a lot about this topic here on Live Impact News, and we always focus on especially what parents can do. And I think that probably is the most important part of this. But I'm wondering, for someone like yourself and the office that you are a part of, are there any tangible steps that you guys are able to take to try and provide some assistance to those parents? Are there any types of regulations or legislations that are maybe coming down the pike that will help with this?
Connor, I'm a mom of 3 Gen Zers, and so I understand what it's like to try to raise kids with having smartphones and screens at school. We need to become digital citizens that can use it to, positively for our advantage, but it unfortunately can cause the harms that I described. So we only have one childhood. You have your whole life to become a good digital citizen. We need to preserve the young and the child. Things that we could do. Well, I would say, now that summer's approaching, let's come up with a media plan. Have a discussion with your kids. They listen. Come up with a plan and create some screen-free zones in your house, whether it be during meals or at bedtime or in the car. Those should be off limits. Those are easy ones to do. Talk more, have connectiveness, right? I think that we could also maybe model good behavior as parents. We should lead by example. If we're always on our phones, our kids are going to emulate that. So make sure that we're not on our phones and ignoring them. Be present with the human that is in front of you and make them feel that they are the most important thing. I think that adults can learn from that too. But there are so many activities in the community that parents can actually work with their children on. Let's go out for a bike ride. Let's maybe do game night. Let's maybe go and cook a healthy meal together. Those are all things that will be positive for the family unit to come together as summer approaches.
All right, Dr. Stephanie Herodopoulos, we know how busy you are. We appreciate you taking time to answer a couple questions with us, to be present with us here on Live Impact News today, and hopefully we get to talk to you again before too long.
Thank you, Connor, for the time.
All right, that's again Dr. Stephanie Herodopoulos, the Director of the National Health Communications for the Office of the Surgeon General. And we got that advisory release in late May that spoke about some of those concerns with the harmful screen use in children and adolescents. And, you know, it's something that we've covered in other interviews here on Live Impact News. And again, that being present, modeling good behavior, planning activities, planning those times of the day where there are no screens is all things that can be done, as smartphones are now a staple of society. And it's something that in large part is unavoidable, and also provides us a great deal of benefits, and is something that you want kids and adults alike to be proficient in using to their advantage, but not to the point where it becomes harmful. And that's where some of those strategies can come in hand, or in handy. Now, let's bring in super producer Sarah Calloway here. Sarah, we've come to a crossroads. We've had we've had Craig Moeller here. We've had Dr. Stephanie Herodopoulos. We're still waiting on this press conference in North Carolina. We've gotten to listen in on this congressional hearing. You know, I'm wondering, where do you think we go from here? We have another live event happening regarding the World Cup, and we do have some other things we want to get to from earlier today. What do you think in terms of our itinerary here?
I think we can do one more break, and then I'm hoping that this, you'll see, it looks like they're setting up, they're very close to setting up right now. I'm hoping that when we come back from commercial break that this will have begun. If not, we can always go to Rubio, back to the Rubio hearing or the World Cup.
Okay, sounds good. So we will take another break here while we wait. And if you can see on your screen, if you could pull up that that dual screen again, Sarah, you see a picture has been set up there. That picture on the left side is former Shelby police officer Carson Hyder, who again has been charged with assault. And then on the right side of that picture that they have put up there, you see Sherry Moore, who is the one who was involved in that arrest that turned into that alleged assault in this situation. So it looks like they're getting ready to hopefully start soon. We'll be right back with plans to head out to North Carolina. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. Still waiting on that press conference to start. We have an interview with a Veterans Affairs Secretary to run for you later on. But for now, we're going to focus on an event that is rapidly approaching. Thursday, June 11th, the World Cup kicks off in North North America. Excuse me, I almost said North Carolina. We've been talking North Carolina quite a bit today. In North America, that first game, June 11th, Mexico versus South Africa in Mexico City. Games will be held in Canada, the United States, and Mexico as well. And it is one of not only the great sporting events, but one of the great cultural events that sort of brings together the entire globe. It's happening right here this summer. Now, some of those games will be held in Houston, Texas. The first game in Houston, Texas will be Sunday, June 14th. And as we've seen throughout this situation, not only is this a fantastic event that provides a unique experience for all involved, but it's also an event that requires an immense amount of thought, planning, and security, of course. And so we've seen city by city as they lay out some of their security initiatives and the things they're doing to protect everyone who chooses to attend, all the players, coaches, families, everyone involved. So out in Houston, the Office of Emergency Management holding one of those press conferences. We'll take a brief listen in on this press conference right now.
And on your babies and your pets as well. As far as foodborne illnesses and vaccine preventable diseases, hygiene is still key. Keep washing your hands if you're feeling ill. Be considerate of your neighbors and be considerate of everybody else in the activities that take place and that you engage in. Thank you.
And then the last scheduled speaker we have is John Coppins. He is the Vice President of Operations for the local organizing committee with FIFA.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, everyone. Just like any major sporting event in Houston or Harris County, you want to plan ahead, whether you're planning to attend matches down at NRG Stadium.
Okay, that was a very brief look into Houston, Texas's World Cup preparations because the press conference in Shelby, North Carolina is getting underway. Let's go live out to North Carolina right now.
I would like to welcome you all here for justice for Sherry Moore. Thank you all for coming, and we really appreciate all the support that you're showing Sherry Moore. Father God, we thank you again for your love, for being here for this family. God, we just say thank you. Father, as we seek justice for Sherry Moore, we thank you, God, for your support, for sending America's attorney, Ben Crump, here to Shelby, North Carolina, and his wonderful team. Thank you, God. We pray, God, that all that you do, we'll know that it's all to protect this family, this community, and even this nation. I thank you now, and it is in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. 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 Once again, I would like to present to you America's Attorney General, Ben Crump. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bishop Moore, for allowing us into your cathedral here in Shelby, North Carolina. I am Attorney Ben Crump, along with Attorney Chance Lynch. We have the honor of representing Sherry Moore and her family. We have present with her father, Mr. Gregory Moore, who's also here, and some of her aunts and uncles. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you all that I stand here with this sister and I have righteous indignation about what we witnessed on that video. I mean, it was God awful how he assaulted and battered this black woman. Amen. People all across America watching this video, and they are just outraged about how he plummeted and punched her over and over and over again. I mean, when you think about, yeah, it harkens back Bishop Moore to what the great civil rights icon Malcolm X said, that the most disrespected, the most unprotected, and the most neglected person in America is the black woman. But we will fight so they cannot disrespect our black women anymore. We will fight so that they will not neglect our black women anymore. And we will fight to protect our black women in Shelby, North Carolina, and all across America. I'm the father, Mr. Moore, of a black daughter, and I can only imagine how you must have felt watching your daughter be brutalized by the very person who was supposed to protect and serve her. And you all have seen the video. You all know on May 29th, Cherie, 34-year-old native of Shelby, North Carolina, in this city, she has mental health issues, and that's not a crime.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
She has been diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar. She was approached by the Shelby Police Department officer while she was having a mental health crisis. Ms. Moore saying, I don't have a warrant, excuse me. She had the demeanor to de-escalate, and it seems like it was the police officer that was escalating the situation. And it's important. It's important to understand. And I know this is difficult, and she is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Who wouldn't be after that plummeting? But it is important to note, sisters and brothers, we saw what happened on the video, but now we have analyzed it. And we need to continue to break down the video so people could understand truly how horrific this really was. He slams her to the ground. This black woman of about 110 pounds. I mean, this is excessive for no reason. When you look at that video. She did not pose any threat to him. Why would he do that to her? I mean, and what you have to understand, sisters and brothers, is when you break down that video, you see him slam her to the ground. And then you see him punch her with a closed fist to her face. Not one time, not two times, not three times, not four times, not five times, not six times, not seven times, not 8 times, not 9 times, but 10 times. 10 punches to her face. 10 punches, closed fists to her face, causing her nose to be fractured, causing her eyes to be blackened, her lips to be swollen. And Attorney Lynch, as we in our team, we broke down that video, you see he punched her 6 times, and then the other officer tells him, that's enough, I got her. And then he punches her 4 additional times. It was unjustified, unnecessary, unconstitutional, and just outright inhumane. Amen. Where is the humanity for Cherie Moore? I tell you, the thing that really begs the question in my mind, Bishop Moore and Mr. Moore, and this should be a question for all of you too. Right. What would the narrative have been if there was no doorbell video? Come on. What will the police report presented if there was no doorbell video? Oh my God. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. And can you all imagine if it wasn't for this doorbell video? How many other sisters and brothers were this police officer, this so-called police officer, would he have brutalized if it wasn't for that video? And it wasn't for you all standing up demanding justice for Cherie Moore. How many more of us will have fell victim to this police excessive force? We wanted to be clear that we're here to get full justice for our sister. We don't want partial justice. We don't want 3/5 justice. We don't want half justice. We want full justice for Cherie Moore. What are we here for? What are we here for? What are we here for? Full justice. And so we know, because of you all in the community, that they did fire the officer for what he did on the video. And you should give yourselves a round of applause. You made that happen. Concerned citizens standing up for Cherie. You all made that happen. And then we got retained and we started calling for criminal charges to be brought. And they did bring criminal charges. However, we think that now that we have the medical records that provides evidence that our sister, Cherie Moore, suffered a fractured nose and her eyes were black and her lips were swollen, serious bodily injury. Serious. Now, the prosecutor can go back and increase the charges from simple assault to assault with serious bodily injuries inflicted. Full justice. Full justice. Full justice. Full justice. And understand, Bishop Moore, Mr. Moore, we're not asking for anything special. What we're asking for, if that was the prosecutor's daughter, who this police officer did like this, what would he charge that officer with then? Whatever he would charge them with for doing it to his daughter, we want the same thing for them doing it to Greg's daughter. Equal justice. Equal justice. Amen. Nobody is above the law. That's right. That's right. That's right. She is a mother of a 17-year-old daughter. She is daughter to Mr. Gregory Moore. Her mother passed, and Mr. Moore has been standing in the gap for his daughter who suffers from mental illness, which is something that is very common to all of us. Right. I mean, think about it, y'all. If we don't stand up for Cherie Moore, who will? That's right. We all may have people in our families who have mental health crises. Do we want them to be beat down like they beat her down? That's why we have to stand up, y'all. Her family has been supporting her. The community has been supporting her, and we have to continue to do it. She finished, despite her mental illnesses, she graduated from high school and got an associate's degree. This is somebody, yeah. And she still struggles with schizophrenia and bipolar. That has been diagnosed. And so we know that this is an ongoing issue. Right. And so, yeah, and so don't blame the victim because of her mental health crisis. Don't blame the victim because of her mental health crisis. We have to blame the people who are supposed to be trained professionals to deal with a mental health crisis. Yeah. And sisters and brothers, even though we got the arrest, we can't get complacent because an arrest is not a conviction. And we have to fight for justice until we get a conviction and we get full justice. Everything that the law will allow, that's what we want. And so we're going to present the medical records to the state's attorney and ask them to increase the charges to be commiserate with the evidence that is purported on the medical records of having a broken nose. Right? Right? You know, a mental health crisis should not equal a broken nose and a busted lip and black eyes. The officer should be held accountable for each punch to Cherie's face. For each punch. 10 charges. This is, you know, if I could just break it down in the most basic sense. Break it down. People don't choose to have mental health issues. Mental health challenges is not a choice. But how we respond to them is a choice. And we see how he responded is the wrong choice when you're trying to interact with someone who has mental health crises. A badge is not a license to be brutal. Amen. We expect the police to treat our citizens with humanity, with dignity, with respect. That's why we're fighting for full justice. 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 Now, before Attorney Lynch addresses you all, and then we'll try to take some questions from the media. Attorney Lynch, I want to at least let Cherie thank everybody if she can. And y'all, keep her impressed. She's going through a lot. And yeah, and we all got to love on her more than he punched her. Right. That's right. That's right.
Thank you for everybody. Definitely want to say thank you. I'm happily surprised, good surprised to see, you know, older and some younger people that I went to school with. It's nice to see y'all. I definitely appreciate it, and I plan to show it in a more, you know, I guess, obvious way in a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Justice for Cherie Moore! Justice for Cherie Moore! Justice for Cherie Moore! Justice for Cherie Moore! And y'all just witnessed this beautiful, soft-spoken, kind of shy little sister. And you saw the same demeanor on that video.
That's right. That's right.
So how could this police officer be so brutal?
Okay, so hearing from Cherie Moore during that press conference in Shelby, North Carolina. We are going to take a quick break here just to get a commercial in. When we come back, we'll head back out to Shelby if that press conference is ongoing. Okay, we're back here on Live Impact News, the press conference in Shelby, North Carolina ongoing. We're going to head back out to North Carolina for the time being, live right now.
Oh, well, they wouldn't comply. They were combative. Right. Well, what's the excuse for how he treated Cherie? You better come on. No excuse. No excuse. All you heard was, excuse me, sir. Yeah. Call my dad. Right. I don't have a warrant. Come on. Right. Excuse me, sir. Yeah. She wasn't combative. She wasn't a threat. And so Attorney Crump, he shared a bit about these 10 punches that we all witnessed. And with every punch being the father of 2 black daughters, made me cringe and put water in my eyes. I can't imagine how Mr. Moore felt to watch that video and to know what his daughter was experiencing, and he wasn't there to be able to help her. Right. But yet she still remained calm, right. She still remained polite, right. And she still remained poised. Right. But here's the thing. Everybody listen to me very quickly. I want to submit to you just a different vantage point than the officer who punched her 10 times. Right. Just a different vantage point. Okay. Why did it take 6 punches for the second officer to intervene? I know since being church bishop, I can't get no help in here. Why? Come on, somebody say why? Why? And why did Cherie suffer 4 more punches after the first 6 punches with another officer standing right there the entire time? Why? And so our question is, what is Shelby Police Department's policy? That part. What is the policy for the department? What is the policy that says that another officer who is standing by, what does the policy say about his responsibility to step in and intervene, even if it is another officer? So while one officer did the punching, another officer permitted it. This is a policy issue.
Yeah.
This is a departmental issue. And my friends, when your police department has this type of policy or lack thereof, when your police department does not have a policy that explicitly states that you are to intervene regardless of whether you're wearing a uniform or a badge, that's a problem.
That is a problem.
I'm almost done, but here it is. I know some will say, well, he tried. Well, I submit to you that he didn't try hard enough. I submit to you that a badge is not a license to break the law. And while there's blood on one officer's hands, literally, there's blood on the entire department's hands. If there is a pattern and a policy that does not stop this type of behavior.
Amen.
What Cherie needed was a helping hand. But what she got was an officer who was heartless. Y'all, this community, you have to continue to stand for Cherie. You have to stand because it's always the right time to do what's right. This community must stand for Cherie because mental health is not a crime.
Mental health is not a crime. Words from that press conference that is ongoing in Shelby, North Carolina. Now, we are coming out of that press conference because we have an interview with a secretary from Veterans Affairs coming up right after this. Stay with us on Live Impact News. And now we welcome a special guest to the stream. Secretary Doug Collins from the Department of Veterans Affairs joins us now. Secretary Collins, we appreciate you taking a little bit of time with us here today. We want to start with some changes that the VA has made, some improvements that the VA has made for veterans. What are some of those improvements that the department has been working on and implementing?
Well, I think that the biggest thing, Connor, is looking at putting the veteran needs first. And that's saying, how do we make whole existence here at the VA is about the veteran who walks through our front door or calls or asks about the benefits that they've earned. Aside from them, we don't have a job. So it's logical that we put their needs first and we assess everything through that lens. And how that's actually looked at the last year and a half is we actually have had dropped our backlog from 260,000 down to under 75,000. Those were 125 days old. We're getting faster completion rates so that they can get their answers, and the quality has gone up, and the percentage of appeals has basically stayed the same, even with a much larger processing of claims. So we know that they're getting the best decisions possible. We also have opened up more appointment times across the country. Over 2 million plus hours have been opened up across the country for veterans so that they can get the health care that they need at the time that they need it. We've also expanded our community care footprint, making sure that they have the ability to access doctors in the community, not just at the hospitals. And one of the things, and especially for the your area down in Norfolk, we've opened up new clinics around the country. We've opened up 35 just in the last year and a half. We have more coming in that have brought the care closer to the community of veterans that we have. So a lot of different things going on and a lot of things continuing that I think are going to meet the healthcare needs and meet the benefits needs of our veterans.
I want to stay on the doctors in the community that you mentioned there. What's the process for finding doctors in the community that you can trust, that you can utilize as a resource, and that your veterans can do the same?
Well, one, we value all our healthcare community. We're the largest integrated healthcare system, but we also are in partnership with many of our local hospitals and community hospitals that treat everybody in the community. And what we do is that when there's a certain processes from drive times to actual wait times at a facility, but also there's best medical interest where the doctor can sit down with the veteran and their caregiver and decide, hey, is it easier for me, especially an aging veteran who doesn't want to drive as much, and it's in their best interest to say go to to get their eye care closer to their home instead of having to drive maybe 30 or 40 miles. That's a way that they can then get that care quicker. It's still VA care. We're still paying for it, but we're making sure that the quality is there, but we're making sure that the veteran is able to use the benefits that they have.
And then, it sounds like you guys are doing so many good things, making so many improvements. There's always challenges to come, we know. What are some major challenges that you guys are looking to tackle heading into 2026?
I think overcoming the past. And I say that with respect, but I think what we've had to overcome is a VA system that was more focused on itself than it was the veteran. And that's, left some lingering problems. Everybody can tell you the bad story about the VA. Well, I'm here to tell you that, look, we're going to do some things that have made to improve. And that, yes, will some people have still an experience that's not what it should be? Yeah, probably so. Just like every other hospital in your listening area right now has the same issues. We're trying to make it better, though. That's the big difference right now is we're moving forward and saying, here, where can we actually work to get the veterans the best help, the best treatment they need, and make it easier and faster and more accurate for them to get that. So I think the biggest thing is to overcome is just overcoming where what we have faced in the past and making sure people understand what we have done that is affecting our veterans.
And when it comes to care for veterans here in 2026, how is it different in 2026 than maybe it was in 16 or 06 or even the previous millennium?
I think it's just a matter of how we get healthcare delivery. Think about it. And no matter where you get, everybody has healthcare delivery in some ways. I think we're now much more automated. People are much more adept to getting records on their phone. They're making appointments on their phone. We're updating our electronic health records management system to reflect those newness in new things, which some of it, frankly, is not all that new anymore, so that our veterans have the same quality of care to say that they would in a public or private hospital outside the VA system. We're also taking things like telehealth. We're actually making more use of remote doctors, especially for our rural areas and others, so that they can have access to quicker care instead of having to go somewhere. They can actually use it right there in their homes as we go forward. We're doing a lot of things that make it easier for the veterans to get the health care they needed. So I think those are the things that make it a look ahead that I think is going to be very good.
Last question for me, for veterans who are watching and they're saying, this is a VA that I really want to be a part of and that I want to utilize, how can they reach out? What's the best place for veterans who maybe haven't been involved to now go and use some of these resources, get the help they need?
Well, I think it's a great question. For those new veterans coming out, get it done quickly. Start off quickly. Go ahead and make your make your initial claims. Get that done and started. For those who maybe have had you're in the system, or even if you had a system, you've waited for years and never thought about it, go to va.gov. Va.gov gets you every bit of information you need to how to start claims, how to find health care to do the things that you need. Or if you want to talk to somebody, you can always call 800-MY-VA-411.
All right, fantastic. Secretary Collins, we know you're a busy man. We appreciate you taking a few minutes to spend with us here in Hampton Roads. Hopefully we'll catch up with you down the road.
Thanks, Connor. Appreciate it.
All right, once again, Secretary Doug Collins from the Department of Veterans Affairs, speaking about, again, some of those reforms that have been made when it comes to changes in the VA and real self-reflection you can hear from Secretary Collins that the department has done to make sure they are providing the best care here in 2026. Okay, we are going to be right back with more Live Impact News after this commercial break. We're back here on Live Impact News. We only have a few minutes. That late interview set us up with kind of a strange schedule here. So could we pull up some of these live events in boxes with me, Sarah? We'll kind of recap what we've been looking at here, and ultimately we will wrap the show, and we'll look forward to our noon broadcast on 13 News Now. As you can see in the split screen with me, ongoing, the press conference in Shelby, North Carolina. That press conference, of course, taking place after video of an officer on Friday repeatedly punching a woman in the process of making an arrest. That officer has since been fired and is now charged with assault. Cherie Moore, the victim in that video, did speak during this press conference. Now, I'm going to bring Sarah in here because I'm getting the wrap. Sarah, I thought we were going straight through till noon.
No.
That's not right.
No.
Okay, I am misinformed, as does happen from time to time here on Live Impact News. Well, a recap of that press conference. We'll have more on that on Live Impact News at 1 o'clock. 13 News Now at noon begins right now.